morning and welcome. We're in New Zealand, but we're actually in the whole world. Somebody the other night was asking me, "You're in New Zealand now. Why are you going to be Skyping all over into Europe and into America?" And I said, "My gosh, I guess I'm always in New Zealand." Or where the heck do I live? And when is it appropriate to talk to somebody? And I tend to really like it myself because I'm totally into, I must be addicted to talking. Some people have told me that. And so I hope someday I'll be addicted to listening. So it's so great to be talking to more, several people, because then we have different kind of takes. We're all different, and different kind of things work in our lives for us, each one of us differently in a way. And so then for a long part of our lives, it seems like we're only relating to those things that work in our lives. And then we try to listen to other people, and they're maybe not in agreement with us, or something else works for them or seems to. And it's hard to respect that sometimes. It's hard to really see. We can't really see it from their eyes or from their walk in their shoes, so to speak, but whether we can just respect each other and kind of like just behold each other, in a way, receive each other in honor and respect. And that turns out to be love, actually, when you do that. And I mean, when you stop disrespecting, it seems like maybe love is what's left over. And so now we're going to span the globe again, and we're going to go to USA, Michigan, and please help us welcome Paul Schroeder. So, hi, Paul.
Hi.
Thank
you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for making this time for us, and thanks for just being willing to, I guess, expose yourself or speak your views, or, I don't think any of us have real strong views that we're trying to preach or something like that. We're just sharing what we notice about us. And so your sharing will certainly be appreciated. And so then we're going to go all the way to Germany, and we'll say hi to Gaily Graham Rao. Hi, Gaily.
Yeah. Hello, Richard. Hello, Paul. Nice to be with both of you.
Right. So here we are with, as a man, I would say, I've never probably really understood women too well. And here we are, and we're two men, okay. But, we have you as our balance. And I don't know, is it hard for women to understand men?
Well, understanding probably doesn't work. Noticing, observing, watching, and most importantly, listen to them, Just listen, and yes, without interpreting it. It's not that men are all the same. Unfortunately, men carry the heritage of that patriarchy, and unfortunately, they are on the side of the ones who have done a lot of wrongs to especially us women. But this is past. What matters is what now is.
Yeah.
And for me, it works best if I simply listen to men. That's what I actually do with Paul. I listen to him. And sometimes something comes out of me and responds back. Sometimes I react back even,
Yeah. But I mean, patriarchy is something that, at least it seems in the Western world, from my view, it seems like we're both carrying, men and women are carrying patriarchy. And it's like a challenge that we both have to. It seems like one of us get a bigger advantage out of it, you know, but somehow it's
that's definitely true. You know, I think it's you find women who really act according to these rules, you know, and of course you find men who act according to these rules, and then you find both sexes who don't, who might go a little bit beyond of that. Yes, but I mean, you know, with I don't know how familiar you are with Eckhart Tolle, and just the other day I was talking to Paul about this. You know, I just feel that sometimes I feel that heaviness, that pain, that collective female feminine pain in me, and you know, I think that was accumulated within the last 2,000 years. You know, in this collective field of us females. And I don't say this with pointing to men. I just say that is what is. So I stay with that. I feel it. I experience it. And hopefully it'll be so.
Many times we see a system where somebody's getting an advantage. Maybe the financial system or the system of ownership and the system that we have in place on the globe about wealth, who's wealthy and who's not wealthy. And then maybe the same thing, we can see that it's kind of a collective hypnotism, or it's kind of the way we've been doing things. And it's kind of, it sounds like it's in a way, like for that, it's a challenge to not point at anyone, not point at the rich people. Okay, you say we're talking patriarchy now, not point at any one man and say it's their fault that they're under that spell. And so that's quite a feat, I think, that you're describing. Of just
you know, Richard, there are two things I've learned that there is the inner. Yes or no, and then of course there is my reaction on the outside. As long, you know, whatever happens, I figured that it's vitally important to check if I have an inner yes to what's happening. And even if I don't have it, then I at least acknowledge that I have an inner no. And from this, because you know what is anyway, I don't have to fight it. This only closes me up or down, or however you say this in English. So, but it doesn't mean that I tolerate everything what men do. I can also be part of groups of women, or you know, connect with them, and still fighting doesn't help. Accepting and then just be open for new solutions which come.
So I don't know. I probably I've thought about patriarchy, or I've thought about how even as a boy, I probably thought about how boys kind of make fun of girls, right? Especially at puberty. I don't know. What about you, Paul? Like, I mean, like I've tried to fight patriarchy, but it's kind of like invisible. I don't know. Is that something that you think about, Paul, or?
Well, you used the good word just now, invisible. Invisible to me, that's going to be a key word here. I have, as I talk with Gailey and interact with the people in my world here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I don't always realize what I'm identified with, so it's invisible to me. It's not invisible to others, but it's, we'll call it a collective ego, a collective consciousness that everybody agrees with, let's say, a cultural conditioning, and that could be limited to the culture around here, or even just a generalized one, you know, worldwide as far as the male-female culture. But when you say invisible, it's almost as if I think with these conditioned ideas and don't even realize I'm thinking with these ideas. and not seeing the ideas. Now, and this gets to the core of why, Gailey and I consider ourselves to have a relationship. We're working on a conscious relationship, or she's even found a great term for it called a RealShip, where sometimes I'm quite unconscious of things that are very obvious to her in me, and she points them back to me. She'll tell me she hears me saying this, or she feels this kind of emotional, maybe even cloud coming from me, and I don't even know it's happening because I'm thinking with these deep biases, these deep thought patterns. We use a word that Gailey introduced me to, the shadow. There are many things that kind of hide inside in the shadow, and I protect these things. It's almost like taking a ball and then pushing it underwater and then using all kinds of energy to keep it down there. And I realize this is something very common in me. I don't realize I'm doing it until it bounces off of her, and then I quite well realize I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through the same thing in a lot of ways, and also about never not here, right? Because in a way, like, it's a point of view. Every time I turn toward never not here and do some kind of a organization or like a preparation, or here we're just doing the execution, which is the fun part, and so easy, but then I have to kind of like take it all apart and then do something with these raw files, right? And every time I turn towards something, I'm also turning away from what else is in my life, and so then it looks like I'm escaping and turning away, and I am, of course. So then it's a point of view too, right? But I mean, like, we don't really know what we're doing except how we explain it to ourselves. And usually most of our interpretations about anything is like a justification for how we're living. That's what I find. And so then it's all self-centered, right? I mean, it's like my justification supports what I'm doing and the way I look at it. And the only way I know about life is through in a way, I think it's through my self-talk or my verbalization. I can have a feeling about life, but it doesn't really, there's no way to map it. You could say, I guess you can know that some things are fun and some things are scary, but with feelings, but it's kind of better for me. I'm the kind of a person that likes to map these things, and map to me means put a few words on them. So, do you feel that? Are you a verbal person, Paul?
Well, I don't know if I could tell you a yes or no, but I know this. Words are generating inside me. I know I'm more introverted than extroverted. Words are going on inside me all the time. So I'm sure from the moment we started this interview, words have gone through my mind that I didn't even see, like little thoughts, we'll say, in the shadow. I probably have already had, countless numbers of thoughts as you're speaking, even as I'm speaking myself, listening with Gailey when she's speaking. And those thoughts are telling me how things are going. This should be this way, this shouldn't be that way. And when I stop to look at what are these thoughts, where do they come from? Why are they there? Why do they go a certain way? When they're unconscious, like let's say they just simply reflect a prevailing attitude, so we'll call it the patriarchal view. And in the United States, there's probably a variation of it that's a little different than maybe how it would manifest in Germany. But basically, it's some kind of identification with I'm a man, there are certain things I'm entitled to, there are certain benefits for being a man, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these thoughts probably happen inside me, and I don't even
Yeah, there's certain taboos also for being a man.
Well, sure. But to answer your question, am I a verbal person? What happens is I catch these little thoughts. Some of them are negative. Some of them are emotional. Some of them tell me what's wrong with what's going on in the external world outside of me. Some turn inward and tell me what's wrong with me. But constantly, one thought after another. If I could catch one right now while we're talking, I could catch it, that tell you, oh, I just thought that. But whether or not, like maybe as I'm looking at your picture, maybe a thought comes to me about, oh, he's wearing a tie. I'm not wearing a tie. That means he's going to look like the expert and I'm going to look like the amateur. So I'm making that up just to give an example of the kind of thought that could go through. Now, that thought doesn't bother me.
Should I take it out?
No, leave it out. Because I'm not interviewing for a job here, and so I don't have some self-talk saying, oh boy, I've just sunk the interview because I didn't dress properly. But what happens is when thoughts about myself become judgmental, or thoughts about other people become judgmental, then I give off a reaction, whether it's emotional or verbal or a combination or even a physical type of reaction, all based on something going on in here. And the thing is, and this is where with Gailey and I working with the teachings of Eckhart Tolle and others who we would call spiritual type of teaching, and that is most of these thoughts simply aren't true. Most of the thoughts that I'm realizing that, like, let's say it seems to me that there's a painful situation going on, and my mind is telling me, I'm in pain because this did not go right, this did not go right, I don't like that this happened, etc., etc. And the pain is really being created within me, but my mind wants to tell me it's being caused by these external things. And so cultural conditionings like patriarchy leads my mind to make statements inside like, this should be different, because those are unchallenged cultural conditionings. Or there could be ones that come from the family. It could be that in my family, as I was growing up, I bought into certain assumptions about how the world is, and especially how I should be in that world. And instead of outgrowing the childish versions of those thoughts, maybe I packed them in somewhere deep inside, and they're still triggering perhaps all the time.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't too long ago, I took a trip down to Phoenix, Arizona to see my parents. And it was like going into a laboratory of my own life. I saw why I think the way I think when I watched the way they spoke to me, and I watched the way I was thinking as they spoke to me.
It's not that every thought should be challenged. It looks a little questionable, but if a thought is sort of unconscious, like, or collective, like the state of the world now, as all the institutions seem to have a masculine take, or somehow say that men and the way they think and look out is the best way to operate as far as running a nation and securing a civilization and building a lifestyle. And then in a way that seems to be so pervasive that it's like unconscious. And so then what should be challenged is unconscious things, and then brought into consciousness, and then see, well, is that right for now? And maybe tomorrow it won't be. And maybe 1 hour it will be right, and maybe another hour it won't. I don't know, Gailey, is this too much thinking, or?
Oh, no, I listen. No, it's not at all too much thinking, you know. When I watch what's going on in the world, like what you pointed to, the corporate companies or institutions or even the government, they react out of a state of lack. Why do I need more millions, more billions, and whatever? It's not greed, I think. It's a fear of having too little. They are in lack. And why are they in lack? Because they are stuck on the level of what I call the horizontal level of that what is our ego or our personality. Our personality is merely something like a set of clothes we inherited or that we took out of the cupboard when we got reincarnated, if you want to believe that, you know.
Here, let me say this and see if you like this idea. Let me say this, because I had the idea one time that ego is our neediness. And because we're needy, then we have this thing like called a consideration machine, you know, and that considers stuff and stores stuff, and the neediness or the state of lack that you're talking about is a separation. I don't know. How do you like that?
Well, see, I have to find the right word in English. It is interwoven. Of course, it depends on from what angle you look at it. Yeah. See, if what helps is what really made the big difference for me was when I got in touch with that what every one of us really is, what I really am. And the more often I am in touch with that, and the more often I feel that, I can see the relativity of everything that is here in this world of form, that exists in that world of form. Exist means stand out, you know. It's visible, like my head, that form. But this is not really what my head is. That is how I perceive it, how my brain interprets the waves that touch through my eyes inside my brain. So there are really two dimensions. That one dimension is the vertical dimension, and when I am in contact with that, all is well. It's all is well. I can't describe it in words because you cannot describe it in words. And then there is the playground, the horizontal dimension with the leg, with all those companies, and I can get totally set up, especially at the American corporate companies and what they do and how they feed the people. Actually, I've enrolled for this weekend, and right now the courses are on a web seminar that an American one about health and about food and about diet, not diet to lose weight, but to heal instead of eating all that pills. And so I'm really very much interested in what's going on, and I observe that, you know. And but once that I know, if you can't say no, that I have sensed that within me, that what I really am. Acceptance comes. This does not mean that I say yes. Go on like that. Stay in lack. But there is no need of lack. Because, you know, maybe I can explain it like that. The other day I had to drive around for more than 2 hours. I had 2 kids to get my one kid there, this other one's here, and I went back and forth. And then I saw these houses, plain houses in Germany, not great houses or great architecture. You know what? And something within me recognized itself in these houses. And it was such a great thing. You asked me, would you like to have a diamond ring? I would not exchange it for that experience that I had, you know? And that makes the difference. That makes the difference. And then when something has to be decided, then I decided in this moment. And this does not mean now that my life is all happy and great. Oh, no. I face a lot of my shadows, you know. But I've learned lately that it's not intellectual thinking about it, it's just feeling them in my body. Oh, I feel a thought, and then I can tell, does this thought do something to me? Do I feel something? Do I respond emotionally with a felt sense in my body? Or is it only a thought? I can see that. And I don't take it so serious anymore, you know. Of course I function.
Yeah. You were talking about, you know, a little while ago you were saying like something relating to the world of form. You know, and of course when you say form, you know, well, spiritual speak, you're implying formless, right?
Yes.
And now, like, I want to ask that, you know, sometimes I think in myself, do I need that? You know, because, like, do I need that distinction? Because, like, isn't formless, for many anyhow, it's intellectual, right? I mean, you can see there's a spaciousness and stuff like that, and you can have a peace. But, I mean, while you're seeing it, you're always in a body because you're alive. And so then forms are always, you know, anytime you open your eyes, I think forms show up, unless you're in a coma. Like, what does it mean? Why do we say form and formless anyhow?
Well, because I have to describe something. You know, let's say I take tranquilizers, you know, then I'm also happy, or I take LSD, then I see beautiful things. But I don't do that. I put my attention, I redirect my attention to that deepness within me. It's like taking a deep inhale. And of course, Richard, you know, I want to make clear, every form has the formless also, you know. It is not, there is nothing on this earth, maybe nothing in this universe that is not also the formless. It is just, do I have the illusion that the form is only a form, or is it something that is made out of the formless? And you can't describe that. The sages said you can only point to that. What I really think is once you can feel it, it makes a difference. I can talk about that, I can write about that. This doesn't get it. Sense it, and then you know. This doesn't mean that I can sense that continuously, but I'm learning to walk, how I can redirect my attention to this level.
You know, what comes to me to say is like, okay, like I've just been thinking, because somebody's going to go to Peru that I know, and so I have a sneaking suspicion he wants to do ayahuasca, right? And you even mentioned, well, I can take tranquilizers and I can take LSD and things look different and they look like this and they look like that, and then we can have a spiritual experience, right? And then we could say like, oh yeah, things look so vast, all of that other stuff must be just thoughts. And we could say, maybe we could see the way anxiety rises and what our urgencies are kind of smaller than we thought they were. But how do we know which of those two experiences, the ayahuasca or just the regular everyday living, which is real, you know, and why are not both of them just as real, right? I mean, why do we think that we have to live in the vastness or be in peace or be in space? Or, I mean, do we or don't we? I don't know.
Well, you know, if you want to try drugs, then you try drugs. And of course, that is an experience that is as real as when I go and wash the dishes. That's the same experience, you know.
Yeah.
That as long as I'm having this experience and I am there to witness it, you know, and not, let's say I wash the dishes and then I think of, I will call my friend, I will do the washing, I will work on the laptop while I'm doing the dishes. That makes the difference, you know. When I wash the dishes, I wash the dishes, and then I don't even listen to music anymore. Or you know, when I wash the dishes, I wash the dishes, and then I observe. You know, I observe, and it's not self-centeredness; it's alertness.
The alertness, that's a key. Like Richard, you were just asking a question that said, how do I know that this isn't the more true thing or that isn't the more truth. And actually, the mind is never going to know, probably. The concept of the mind wants to know, because what happens is the mind creates a self. And guess what it creates it out of? It creates it out of ideas. And that's not really who we are. The only thing we can know for sure.
How about just say we're more than ideas, and we are ideas?
Well, I wouldn't even go there. I would say just what's there when thinking stops. And instead of trying to instead of nailing this down with with any kind of words, just experientially right now, just look for a second, for the next count of 5. What is here when none of us have words in our head? What's still here no matter what? And so there's something is there. And we use words to point to that. We use words like formless. We use words like being. And then the mind wants to understand, well, what is being? What is formless? What is God? What is existence? On and on and on. And the thing is, we can all of us here, including that shadowy figure that's behind you who looks like someone filming us, we're all here, and our words can try to put a little shape around what it is. But on the other hand, if we just experientially stop, something, I've heard Eckhart use the word consciousness, something is always there in which no matter what we think about, no matter what we say, no matter what happens, no matter what emotions can be seen, we call that form, because form seems to be an object. It could be a thought, it could be an emotion, it could be the shape of something, it could be, here's a pen, we give it the word pen, it's a form. It could be an emotion, something I feel inside that I can actually look at. But what is looking?
Yeah.
What is kind of like this always on?
Yeah, we give it a word, we honor it with a word like consciousness or something. If you say, what comes to me to say is like, when thought stops, what's here? What's here is substance. Let's just call it substance because it's
call it that, yeah.
It's
but
life,
again,
it's substantive. It's substantive. It's substantive.
Okay.
Whereas other stuff, thoughts, they're images. They're not substantive. They're images, right? And then you could say like we could get out of balance where our images get to be taking up most of our life, and the stuff that's really substantive, that's here and now, gets on the back burner. It's like my interpretations are more important than what's happening, and so then we're out of balance for sure. But I think we can be out of balance in the other direction too, where we say, oh, our interpretation is the bad guy, so let's just say we'll stay in this clear space, and call it I call it substance.
Yeah, see, substance implies something that stands out because it almost sounds like something separate from something else. The consciousness is not a substantiative anything. It really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So there's no substance. A substance is something like this is a substance. This is a bottle cap.
Yeah. Okay. We talk about consciousness as if it was separate or a thing that could be like, there's always substance here in the consciousness, or otherwise we're dead, I think. But the substance is there. Substance to me, when I say substantive, it just means you don't need a thought to have it, right? Whereas an image, you need a thought or a memory to have it. And then that's kind of like how So the poetic versus the precise or precision, is that a metaphor for the form and the formless?
No. The poetic is, well, it depends on, if you look at literature, they have a lot of, they play with the language, whereas where I come from, it's more scientific, and especially with Germans, that's why we have all these philosophers and all these guys, they are very precisely, and when you go through certain school system and education, and which I did, then it's for me, it's the normal way to communicate. Sometimes I'm getting a bit of a fit with the way Paul communicates, and and this is, but this is what it is. I think everybody would be the same, then this would be totally stupid, because life wants to have an infinite variety of possibilities to express itself, So that's once more, just listen and then ask him, and if I get upset in me, because he said something, then of course I tell it to him, but I don't put the blame on him, It's about them finding clarity, and sometimes it's we have to make a timeout, whatever kind of. No, it's the artistic realm is more in touch at times with the formless, as we might call it now. But this does not mean that any poetic word is the formless. No, you can't. The formless is not in words. It's in words, but you can't. You can only point to it with a word.
Yeah. So I was saying a little bit before that I was kind of liking to put words to feelings.
Yeah.
And so then I like to be precise too. Like, I don't like to use necessarily secondhand words like spiritual truths and stuff like that. I like to look for a new word that's fresh for now, and that comes from now. And the way I do it is kind of like, I kind of like allow myself to like thinking to subside and just stand in a kind of an open space and see if a new word will come. And then, and somehow that seems like it shifts me. It shifts my energy, because all those words that I was holding that maybe I was even unconscious of, they were giving me some kind of a mood structure, and I could shift that somehow by finding a new word, and then tomorrow I can find another new word. It's not a kind of precision where I'm going to make a encyclopedia and say, well, this is how it is. We already discovered all that stuff. But I do like precision. Or maybe appropriateness instead of precision.
We are all energy and life energy, and that life is very creative, and why not find new words if we are all changing? Nothing's wrong with that. That's certainly the point. And then, words are sound, and words are vocals and vocals and how is that other word for it? Consonants. Okay. So and nothing else but this. But the conditioning gives these items of vocals and consonants a meaning. And so, of course, if I tell you I hate you, you feel something. And if I tell you I love you, you feel something else. Or if I say I agree with you, I think you are great. We give these sounds a meaning. And that's okay, because if we wouldn't, why would we be here? There's Dr. Jill Baldy Taylor. She wrote a book. It's called The Stroke of Insight, and there she describes what happened to her when she was having that stroke, and so she basically was fully aware of formless, but she couldn't function. It was very hard for her to function. It was hard for her to remember numbers, to make a phone call, and she couldn't speak. She couldn't even speak because that part of the brain had that stroke. And since I realized that, I'm grateful. I do have my personality. I just don't take it so serious. I do not take that T-shirt serious. I have it and I wear it and I like it. Or if I not, then I don't. This is what my personality is, and it makes it easier. As long as I do not get hooked in an egoic reaction, and then I have to see, and at least afterwards I can see, okay, that was that once more.
Maybe Paul will tell us. I want to ask Paul, what's the difference between reaction and and response.
The reaction to me is something that happens in the mind. If it's an egoic reaction, and this is the one that creates the trouble, where I hear the knock on the door, and then all of a sudden my mind starts coming up with amazing thoughts that have something to do with this notion of me. All right, one could be, what a noisy place I live at. All these people going by all the time. They shouldn't be knocking on my door. Why would they bother to knock on my door? Don't they know I have important things to do on a Saturday afternoon? Or what if I was trying to sleep? I mean, how could I sleep if they're always knocking on my door? Or is it those people that are supposed to be fixing? I thought they were going to come yesterday. They're supposed to come on Friday. Saturday is a... Okay, so all that is reaction. I'm giving a demonstration here. And actually, sadly, I think my mind actually works that way sometimes. It sounds silly to say it out loud, but what's so funny is, then why do I do that inside if it sounds so silly when I express it outside? Why do I allow that to stay there? I guess that's another question. But that's reaction. Reaction is basically a no to what is. It could be a no, it could be a hell no, it could be a, but it's a no. And then there's an upsetness in me. And then I transfer the fact that I'm upset into the person who did it. These neighbors that I have here, man, I can't believe these neighbors that they're letting move into this place. Don't they check their background to make sure that that they're gonna, okay. So anyway, I'm making up a little. I'm making it worse maybe than even my own mind would do.
Yeah, no kidding. No, but you're getting it real clear to us. We're really getting it clear.
That's reaction. And the thing is, when reaction happens, here's the interesting thing: is it happens because it's been conditioned in me. It came from the way my school, the community I grew up in, my family. On and on, my own response to all this started this little egoic machine inside me. And when I identify and think those thoughts and don't see the thoughts, I actually become those thoughts. I become that person. Of course, we've had many American sitcoms. Think of All in the Family, probably from our era when we were, what was that, in the 70s maybe? Archie Bunker. And he basically was that collective ego. He expressed it really well, and they made a great television series out of it because people would respond and then react to him too. So that's reaction. A response is simply there's a knock on the door, and and I don't have to. I can do whatever. I can go there and answer it. I can stay here. It's not that one is like a spiritually correct answer. I can respond based on what does my mind, using it intelligently, decide is the best. And so that's the concept of using the mind versus being used by the mind and then turning into this emotional mess, which then gets thrown out at other people. And I don't even know I'm doing it when I'm unconscious of it, but others will tell me that I am doing it quite much.
So in a way, it might sound like that's our game, like some of us have come to this game in life to say that what's unconscious, like, we call the reaction, that should be relooked at. And why should it have to be only relooked at every week? Should be, if we're here now, we're looking at it as it's happening, right? And that's maybe the spiritual game, right? I mean, that we're just saying, we're kind of saying that I think that's what we're doing in this talk, and what I'm doing in Never Not Here, and what everyone's doing in Eckhart Tolle form. We're trying to see how we can be here. We call it presence. We call it, we just call it awareness. Right, and that's kind of like we're saying, okay, well, how can we see the mechanism of this How can we dig deeper into? We talked about it on this conversation too, and we called it the collective. And we started with patriarchy and things that we don't see, right? Because we just kind of live there. We could talk about how we lived in, we were born in a family situation and out of a mother's womb, and that mother had a certain anxiety level, and that's our ground floor of that to us that was peace. That was like that. I suppose that we're born into a certain level of anxiety and a certain level of unconsciousness, and that's our challenge that we're picking up in this birth.
Yes, what is anxiety? Anxiety is something like an account of unlived, unfelt fear, That anxiety is nothing that exists out of its own. So depending on how able my mother or father were to deal with this fear and stress, and see over here, my mother and father, they were both they experienced World War II, and so did their family. So that is a huge level of anxiety that I was born into, and that unfortunately carried onto my children. Now I can see what I can do is I can explain to them now that I understand what this is all about. And one of my children is more open, and the other is not. So that and then the most important thing for me as mother is to allow them to be as they are. This does not mean let them do all stupid things, but for this moment, once more, it's a simple question. Can I allow them to be as they are right now? And if I can, or even if I can't, but I'm aware that I can't, then that new space opens and I can respond to them. I can respond to their anxiety. But most important, I have to face my own anxiety account, It doesn't help that I want to save others. First, I've got to save myself. And I think, I like the term of a Sangha lately, that Buddhist term where you form this group, and especially with children, and the mother and the children, they are a Sangha if they like it or not, So we are all in the same boat, we're on the same page, even if we were not, So I really think the more I become aware of my fears, the more I become aware of what I do when I feel a fear, the less I get attached to anxiety. It takes 30 seconds or maybe 90 seconds to go through the body, and that's it. Don't make a story out of it, feel it. That's what I do. And once more, this does not mean that I don't struggle. I do struggle, but I can always return to that peace, Did this answer your question?
Well, I think, it was, my question in a way was addressed when you said that each of my children has to be the way he is, really, and I don't want to change him. And really, what we don't want people to be open to our standard of openness, but we just want them to be able to take a look. Right, we do kind of want them to be able to take a look at how they are and see how they like it for today, and then maybe tomorrow they'll change it. Who knows? And so that's the kind of openness we're talking about, is really just to look at ourselves and look at our self-talk.
Well, what I've learned in the last 2 years is that it doesn't help if I preach, neither to my friends, nor to my children, nor to other people, my parents or whatever. What helps is that I live it. When I live it, it's simply the best. Because what is that substance, presence, awareness? It transmits itself. It creates, it fills the space. And then I trust life. it's enough if I'm present for now. I can only be present. I cannot make you or Paul or my parents or my children present. This doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, here's one for you. Let me ask this, because this comes up with me a lot, Like, where can we make the distinction? Where do we draw a line between preaching and just expressing what works for us, or what's active in our life? Where does it become preaching?
Genau. It becomes preachy when the ego takes over. If I share with you my first-hand experiences, that's authentic because I felt it, I lived it, I bypassed it, I felt it fully. I can share this. If I say we could see that or you could see that, then it could be a matter of how I use speech, or it could be that rather than diving deeply into my own experience, I use a bypass because I don't want to feel my own experience. I'm afraid of the fear, I'm afraid of the pain, and then I start preaching. Then it's not real. It's not genuine, it's not authentic. I think real or unreal is maybe not so good, because then we have to define once more, what do we mean by the term real? Authentic would be better for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher. I'm not even at all identified with teachers. Have been my natural enemies, So. Yeah, I'm born as a teacher.
So, how about, where is the difference between preaching with Paul and self-expression? Because a lot of us say we don't want to preach, so then we don't express either.
Yeah, Gailey's answer really hit it on the head. And, working with her has helped me so much, because I'm in a profession that's supposed to teach. And so there's this itch in me to want to explain things. But boy, did she hit it when she said, the way you can tell is when it's the ego.
So many of us, that are sensitive to people preaching, right? We cut off our own expression. And I'm wondering if, we've said that, okay, preaching has to do with the ego, right? But somehow preaching, it's, in other words, speaking or sharing with some kind of a desired result, right? And with sharing, we don't need a result, right? We know it's not that you're supposed to believe me or anything like that, or change your behavior or anything. But I'm just flowing, right? I'm in the flow. And so is there a way to just express without really trying to convince?
Do you want me to answer? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I've heard Gailey mention that the teacher and the taught produce the teaching, and I think she said she heard that in something Eckhart had said. That really brings it into focus, so that rather than becoming an egoic procedure where the teacher is literally enhancing an ego, it's really almost like friends sharing and pointing to something that we can all look at together, not designed for one person's ego to climb up this way, but really to look within, and to, when she was talking about her children, how with one there seems to be, maybe an alignment, a more willingness to be open. When we align with things, the quality of our lives changes, and life goes more beautifully in some ways. Things go easier. I know these are practical things.
Practical is probably what we're missing. If anything, we're missing practical. So,
well, there's a certain kind of harmony, but not a false harmony. It's a harmony that comes from alignment, from a willingness to, like in myself, to let go of thoughts that kind of contaminate the space, that throw negativity in. And teaching, here's the problem. And when Gailey said something about how teachers are her natural enemy, and I am a teacher in my function. Thanks to her, really thanks to her, and then my own inquiry into this, my own teaching has changed, I would say, dramatically in the last 2 years, because I've almost dropped certain assumptions about what a teacher is. I'll give you an example. I said something to a class. I teach instrumental music, American style band, and I have a class with 40 sixth graders in it. And I made a statement once where I said, now I'm standing here and many of you may be thinking I'm the teacher. And I said, there is a certain job that I'm here to do. I said, but this class is going to go a lot better when you realize we have 30, 40 teachers in here. They just look like sixth graders. They look like 12-year-old people. They're teachers too. It's simply we're starting to loosen the strictness of what the function is and the role and the identification with this role, and really allowing things to flow through what I can do as a so-called teacher and what students can do as so-called students. It's a subtle thing. It's kind of hard for me to give an exact example of how that happened. But I said, when you're willing to all start sharing with each other, even there, something new comes in. And when something new comes in, that's a life impulse. Life is about creating things fresh. Like in this moment right now has never been before. I mean, it's the now. It's the now that's always here, but it has a certain form. We're all sitting here doing this interview. I can feel this chair a certain way. I can feel feelings. There's a real tendency to want to ignore what is and go to the mind. And the role of, like, I'm a teacher in my daily occupation wants to take over. And then it wants to take over even as I discuss things like, say, spiritual concepts. And then, of course, there's the ego in that. So when we share with each other, we're really looking for ways to help assist each other, really. Maybe say something that'll help the other person along and see something. And then, life's really a growth process at that point.
Paul, you said some such great things, like especially sharing with about your sixth grade and about how if we could just share together, right? And so then somehow the other ingredient of just sharing together is just listening and receiving. And it sounds like what you two are really getting good at, listening and receiving and sharing. And then you said something like, I'll just say this, you said, if we could just come together as friends in a supportive way and share, instead of, and now I'm understanding the egoic part too, because the egoic somehow is using whatever we use to support our concept of me. Sure. Right? And so if I build my concept of me, then I'm using something in an egoic way. But if I just do it, even if I'm tattering my concept of me, or if it's just neutral, right? And then we can talk about how we found each other. We found each other on the Eckhart Tolle forum, and there are some people there that are just there to share and be supportive and find that tenderness and love between people, and how to receive. And others, I guess, are trying to say, well, yeah, I know, but I think it's this way. For me, it's this way, and they really pressing out their own way, right? And just about where's that tenderness and love, right? I mean,
tenderness and love is always present when I am open. Yeah, I can be like in computing, it's either a 1 or a 0. It flows or it does not flow, and that's basically, if I would have to say, I'm either open or I'm contracted. I think it's the word. Yeah. So when I'm contracted, of course, there's also life, love, tenderness, but it's not so much available for me. But when I'm open, it's much more available, and then I can share it.
Available, or it's not so much fun, right?
So much fun when, what do you mean? When I'm open, it's much more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Things are easygoing, you know. It's better for my physical body because when I'm contracted, it produces all these things within my body that I'm actually harming my physical body, you know. And that is this real intelligence, when I sleep, also has to repair it, you know, as good as it gets. So it's much better if I'm open and it's flowing freely. I'm relaxed, I'm okay, and you know, and then if I come to something, you said, let's talk about practical things, you know. So when I've got to do something and I feel contracted, I can feel this now, you know. And of course, then I could start analyzing, oh, what did I think, or what was my concept? No, it's enough to just say, oh, contracted, there I feel it, I sense it. And then it dissolves. It's very strange, you know. Whatever I put my attention to on the level of form dissolves. And I hope the word is distinction here. When I redirect this attention of mine to this level of non-form or formless, it does not go away, because that is real, it remains. It's just that I can't stay there for so long for whatever reasons. Maybe it's an exercise, or I have to train a muscle or whatever. A so-called muscle. I mean this now as a metaphor. But when I say to that when I stay with that, things that occur in this present moment here now, especially if they are a contraction, they really dissolve. Not maybe immediately, but the more I practice that, the better it works.
Does it dissolving? Is it kind of permanent, or is it long lasting, or does it just recycle again tomorrow?
Well, see, that is what I can't tell you. I'm observing. Okay, I know what the answer is. When it dissolves totally, then it takes a bit of time, and I think, oh, now that happened, and I don't respond to that anymore. It's not that my mind says, this is done, file is done, put it away, you know. I think, no, I realize it at a certain occasion. Oh, I'm not getting upset. Oh, I used to get upset with that. Look at that. You know, then I'm very astonished about myself. I found a trick, maybe I should tell you that. I don't know if you want to hear that. I had a lot of aggression lately in my very close environment. Shall I talk about that?
Sure, if you like. I mean, you know, were you being aggressive, or was it coming at you?
It was coming at me, and of course I could have taken the spiritual bypass to say, oh, these poor beings, you know, oh my God, they are so aggressive, I send them love and light and whatsoever, and this probably would have worked. But you know, since I'm a German, I go to the root, you know, and the root is, if this is in my environment, it has something to do with me. And you know, I wouldn't consider myself as somebody who lives aggression a lot. So but aggression is part of the human nature. So it's also part of me, if I like it or not, you know. So I say it was pressed away. I split from it. So unfortunately, some poor beings in my closer environment volunteered to come toward me with a lot of aggression, and it felt very awfully when I had to talk to them. First, I wanted to hide. I didn't want to talk. then I avoided it, and then I had to talk. I was afraid. Oh, I had the whole spectrum, And then it went on, and life is really kind, It repeats the lessons until you get it. So this thing went on for 2 weeks, and I was really pissed. I was totally angry at all of that. And then I thought, okay, now, there. They are my Sangha. These people are my Sangha. I am with them. So I had a confrontation with the main aggressor last night once more. Yes, it was last night. You know what? It went totally different. I asked him several times, what can I do for you? In a calm state of mind. What can I do for you? You know what? He said, you can't do anything to me. Then he went on ranting, and I listened. I put all my attention to his words because I wanted to understand what this was all about. And so I once more asked him. And I didn't do that to repeat it, but in the context of that ranting of his. And, well, in the end, after 30 minutes, and I think 3 or 4 times he answered, no, you can't do anything for me now. And then it was over. And it was, I don't know how he felt, but I felt different. I didn't swing along with that aggression. I didn't press it away either. I just let it go through me.
That's a really good sharing, because I was, I'm thinking often that well, how do I want to say this? Let's see. I'm looking for a verbal component in how I feel, right? And I'm almost finding it all the time. Now, in this case, I don't know. There was somebody else had the verbal component, and you just let it in. And okay, like we were saying that we were noticing the difference between contraction and openness, and that's the easy part, right? Because we all can notice that. And then we say, well, the contracted part, maybe we don't want it. And then,
yeah.
And then there's an idea that if you feel it fully, somehow it'll dissipate, right? Or it'll get totally accepted, or somehow it won't be a big deal anymore, which has validity, right? And that you just explained a situation where that worked.
Yeah.
And then our normal explanation, especially when it's looking outward, that doesn't work so good. He's doing this to me. She's doing that to me. The government's no good around here. And when we flip that inside and say, well, I must be inadequate, or like this is problems I have to solve, or something, we start eating our own heart out about it and trying to turn it all that unknown inside. That doesn't really work either, right? That's another kind of a spiritual thing. We think we're more advanced because we're not throwing aggression out anymore, but in a way we're getting an ulcer, so we're throwing the aggression in. So that doesn't work either, right?
No. Yes, cancer is repressed rage, You repress rage over and over for all these years, and then this rage energy, everything that we do, that we say, that we experience, it's nothing else but energy. So now, instead of attacking my whoever who annoys me, I attack my physical body and I store it there, and it's like a time bomb. And then one day it explodes and it builds all these things in us, So once we understand aggression is a part. Aggression, look at the word. It's nothing but repressed energy, and that behavior pattern to repress energy, that That is part of the human nature. So that's nothing wrong with that if I experience it. It's just, do I split from it once more? Do I push it into the shadow? Do I start to blame? Do I start to make up stories about it? Then I enhance it because I add more energy to that. Or do I just say, yes, you know, when you have a thunderstorm, it's not that you make a big deal out of it. I mean, let's say you are safely in a car or in a house, and not in the middle of a field or in the forest. Then you have to take action, of course.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too simplifying, but sometimes I think when we feel aggression or feel an emotion, even feel a depression, it is a story. It actually is a story, right? Any contraction is a story.
Yes.
It's a story that that whatever's happening shouldn't be there, right? Even if somebody's knocking on your door and pounding on your door and saying, "Hey, get out! You got to get out." You say, "No, that shouldn't be." And so then.
Well, I think, the response or the reaction has something to do with the story. What happens. It's just something that happens in this moment.
Yeah, but what the reaction to what happens is, I'm saying, is a story, or I think it is in my life. I don't know.
The reaction is a story. That's what you say.
Or comes out of the story. The story I hold about it. In other words, it's either a story I consciously tell, or it's a belief structure or a collective consciousness that I'm immersed in. And
yes.
Somehow I'm acting that out,
Yes. Yes, you do. And until you become aware, until you can observe, you can stop back, and you can realize, who Richard, who is having that reaction? Who is the one who is having that reaction? Who is the one who is observing you having this reaction? And then you get close to it.
Yeah.
And that is what it's all about. It's not about us sitting there doing nothing, meditating or letting love flow through us or whatever. No, it's about conscious living,
Well, I've totally enjoyed hearing our takes on these things. So, I mean, I guess I say my reactions are my story, and I can search to restory it. So then, it seems to work pretty easily, and it does make a shift, and it's kind of permanent. At least for that thing. Yeah.
Well, they have a momentum with them, Richard. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, and sometimes, if I, there are different approaches to it. That kind of Zen-like thing says you should do inquiry. Yes, then do inquiry if you want to do that. Like Eckhart's approach is more accepted fully, and maybe we accept it 5 times, and I trust life that it dissolves it by itself. Also, genuine inquiry helps, as long as I don't cut it away, as long as I by cutting it away, like what Paul said, let's say it's a water ball, and there it comes up in front of me. You know what? I hate it. I hate what comes up in front of me. So I use my arm to press it underwater. That is the energy movement. And then I have to use my arm to keep it pressed underwater, and then I can't do much else because my arm is blocked. I can't swim with one arm, or maybe I have to hold some other balls under the water. That stinks. But then if I see, then I energize all these little idea balls. But if I just let them come up to the surface and swim and touch them, and there's another part of my personality, the liar, oh hi liar ball, and I swim, and then there is the cheater, and then there is maybe the loving mother, and then there is whatever comes up, I just accept it, as good as it gets. See, I am in a process, and this is what I do, and sometimes I'm aware in this moment when strange things happen, even when lovely things happen. Sometimes I'm not aware, but afterwards I'm aware then.
That sounds so freeing, it's so freeing. And then, so then it's the freeness of it, just letting all these things go up and quit shoving them down. The freeness of it is kind of like a lack of neediness. What we were talking about before is the need or being believing that there's a lack, like I'm missing something in my personality, and I have to reform parts of it, right? And so then, in a way, that's a neediness that keeps it going.
Yes. It's the neediness, and it's this idea of being separate,
Right. I think that's the same, actually. Neediness is separation.
Yeah. Sure. But see, if I think if I know that I'm not separate of every quality on the level of personality, if I know that, and if I know the only thing that keeps me away from having access to that quality of personality that I probably, let's say I would say Oprah, on the level of personality, Oprah is really cool, She has achieved a lot of things, and she's not very known in Germany, but I happen to have seen some, I watched some of her shows, or plenty, as much as it got, So she has worked on her personality, and of course she has also a certain kind of presence. But I can have it too. If I like her features that she had, I can have it. It's just something in myself on the level of personality once more that blocks me from having access to that. So if I know that, then I can do some more inquiry or just sense what comes up with me. If I think, oh, Oprah can organize so good, she has that stuff, what does it do to me? And then I can go towards that, what I would like to live. Or I can say, you know what, I don't care. I just sit with what is, and I wait, and I see what happens. That's also another, whatever you would like to do. Would I like to be more active, or would I like to be more letting life go through me fully, expressing itself with everything that I have as this body, as that personality? I have learned every skill, I don't know. I am learning by doing.
Inquiry to me means presence, because if we're here, we see what's happening, right? And we can say, well, what is that? And that's the inquiry, right?
Yeah. Well, I can describe the inquiry. I've been, if it's to be called an inquiry, of and maybe another word for it is clarification and understanding of in me. It seems like, going back to my childhood, a pattern in me is to become negative. Thoughts will close me up. And, how Gailey talked about, if we contract, thoughts close up. And I can become negative and not even realize it. Like she might say, what's wrong? And then I'm taken aback, like, I don't know. What do you mean, what's wrong? But sure enough, a contraction has happened. I'm not conscious of it. I need to inquire. I have to look inside. Well, what really helped, and I think I mentioned this to you about a week ago when we talked on the phone prior to setting up this interview, was coming to understand this sort of negative cloud that wants to live inside me. And it's been there for a long time. And it can be hidden with many positive, lovely things going on, to the point where it's almost like it shoves it down and it's like, oh yeah, it's out of the way now. But then all I have to do is have something happen in the external world that activates that little negative inside of me, and whoosh, here it is again. Clouds of doom. I'm literally a walking gray cloud, I guess, or something like that. And the answer to it is a bit simple, but it takes a lot of diligence to watch it. And that is, when I feel in my body, especially here in my throat, when I feel in me that something's contracting, I don't have to go through a great deal of analysis to realize I'm contracting. Full stop. I'm contracting. Something in me is saying there's something wrong. Now, usually the mistake is Something's wrong with whatever is going on in the outside world. It could be anything. It could be that guy that knocked on the door. It could be anything at all. But something's wrong outside of me. Not realizing I'm creating inside me everything that hurts. And earlier when you were speaking with Gailey, you talked about how, this will dissolve after looking at it. Well, I'm finding out with this sort of negative inner state, it's not dissolving real quickly. And I'm actually okay with that, because now I'm much more conscious that I carry around in me an egoic relic, this egoic machine that has been what I consider to be me all this time. And it's a thought, pattern, process, whatever you want to call it, that closes me up. If there's a fear, there's a wanting things to be a certain way, and if they're not a certain way, my mind says, oh, something's wrong with that. And I consider myself lucky that I can feel this.
Yeah,
because
it's terrific.
It is.
What you say is just terrific for people to say, okay, look inside and see if there's a seed there. There's a seed that's always going to sprout to be negativity, and what is it to water? You could say, what is it that waters that seed, right? And gets it sprouting, right? And just to notice it, it's huge.
Yeah, bingo, that's it. And so I'm thinking, it's funny. I had a really lovely day on the externals yesterday. There was a nice little musical that I went to. And yet, even during the musical, although I enjoyed nearly all of it, I could feel that negative sense inside me. And I thought, that's funny. Nothing went wrong. Why am I contracting? Well, of course, had to be thoughts. There had to be some kind of egoic, that student down there, and then I might have had a thought about that student. It could have even been a student I never taught, but somebody else. Here, I'll show you something my lovely mind could do is, wow, there's a great musician. They didn't have me, so how can they be so good? Dark secrets from the shadow. and I realized, what a great mind.
That's pretty good. Hey.
Did I really think that? and then I laugh, because it's like, it's thoughts like that are that silly and that ridiculous that just go on. And when I believe them, when I identify with them, when I feel helpless that things aren't going my way, then I live in this contracted, gloomy existence. And I'm like one of those little pathetic creatures in a movie like that little Gollum in Lord of the Rings, just kind of contracted like that. And I turn into that, or I turn into some version of that. And I realize, gosh, that's not real good. And the thing is, you can't push the cloud away. I can't push the cloud away. I consider very lucky that I can see it and feel it there. And I'm in no hurry for it to disappear right now, because if I created it starting when I was young, growing up, I've been, you gave it the word, I've been watering the seeds, moment by moment by moment. And I could have a thought while we're sitting here that waters that seed and be completely unconscious of it.
You said you can't really, the seed is in there. That was the recognition, and I can't push it away. So you can't just say, go away, I don't want to be negative. But in a way, you can see the source of that negativity. Now, in many cases for me, I've just seen it's a belief or a way I structure things, I'm trying to say, people should live this way, the way I've always seen it, And when I let go of that, then I can just, when I see that was a verbal construction, I don't know, is that too simple or what? I'm saying you can actually. First of all, I'm saying two things. One is you can notice contraction right away, see? And then you can say, well, I'm going to experiment with my life. You can't just say, I'll push it away forever. So then just say, I'm going to experiment with my life, and I'm just going to stay open and see if that brings me a lot of shifts and a lot of new opportunities in life. And then how would you do it? I would just say search for words that are kind of either conscious or unconscious. If they're unconscious, you have to search a little harder. that are binding you in that, and are binding you in that particular instance. I don't know. Does that kind of seem like an experiment that you can run, or is that one that?
Yeah, well, I get what you're saying, and this is with Gailey's help. I feel like I've gone immensely into understanding this, but you said something like I should be more open, or we should be more open. I realize that doesn't necessarily happen. The real valuable thing is to see the truth. That, for example, I just had a thought that closes me up. Oh, okay. And then when I say to myself, I should be more open, this is what it does to me. I told this to Gailey a week or so ago. It's like taking a rope and squeezing it. Or she said it's like wringing out the laundry. First, I contract. Then I have another thought that goes the other way that says I shouldn't be contracting. And now,
well, wait a minute. What about, okay, those are good ones. But what about, you said I should be more open, but what about I could be more open? All I got to do is rephrase this story.
I would almost say, okay, now I'm just talking for me. You're creating time when you say that. Why don't we just look at what is? Right now, am I saying no? Am I contracting? See, I came up with an analogy. Now you're from the Chicago area. I grew up in the Chicago, and I always say I was cursed with having to be a Chicago Cubs fan. Gailey may have no idea what we're referring to, but I notice you laugh, so you get it. But baseball is a great analogy for me, and I came up with this one. I've been like the guy standing there in the batter's box, wanting to explain the game of baseball while I stand there holding a bat, and the pitcher's throwing the ball, and the umpire's calling a strike on me, and I'm explaining the finer points of hitting the ball and all this. I'm just talking about it endlessly. I'm missing the pitch that's coming in right now. In fact, it could be a pitch that's going to hit me, and I'm standing there talking about, now, if you hold the bat just right, and if you okay. And she laughed because she could see that this is an analogy, but it also explains me quite well. And it's like, let's look at this moment. Rather than saying, I could be more open, I could be this and that. Because here's what will happen. There's the greatest intelligence is the awareness or the ability to observe. I know Gailey heard Deepak Chopra say something like that, and I think I heard it. Where and there's a real nugget of wisdom here. Look at the pitch that's coming in right now. It's the only one there is. You can breathe for a second. Which breath can you take right now? The fifth breath that's about to happen, the third breath that's about to happen, the 17th breath that's about to happen, the third one you took 3 breaths ago, or this breath. Which breath can you look at? As far as I know, only the one you're taking in this moment. So, let's look. Look inside. Do I have a thought right now that tells me a no? A kind of no? And I wish this was better? This isn't quite right? Am I contracting? Okay. Do you know, as soon as you do that, the openness is already there. The space is already around it. The wisdom is in the watch the ball. Remember in Little League? Keep that. Way to watch it. Remember the parents would always keep an eye on that ball.
Yeah, right.
Lovely. Okay, so, but actually, there was great spiritual wisdom in that. Watch the pitch that's coming in, and over and over. In other words, of course, you're going to breathe again.
Right.
The breath you took back when I told you to watch that one, that wasn't the last one you're going to take, I hope. You can always take this one.
No, I think that's really, really perfect, That's so perfect.
Into the nap. Yeah, and Gailey taught me that. She taught me to look at the present moment. She said it a couple years ago, and I was like, yeah, right. Look at the present moment. I get it. And she always wondered why I didn't seem to get it. Because I would say I got it. Or she would think, can't you tell you're very negative? No, damn it, I can't. No, I didn't. But if I got upset enough, I got real bad. But really, it's a matter of watch right now, and you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at the intelligence. Okay, where's the intelligence that tells your heart to beat? Where's your intelligence that tells your liver to process what it's processing right now in this moment? Where is that intelligence? I mean, it's got to be there somehow. There's something doing what it should be doing. The few things you had to worry about was just making sure your tie looked right, making sure your hair was combed. That's pretty simple. That only takes.
I almost took it off, just right in the middle there, but somehow I didn't want to rattle my microphone, right?
But
I don't know.
Really,
let's just kind of close it on this, because I think we really have demonstrated something really perfect. If we haven't closed all our arguments or not, but we've demonstrated three friends coming together that are really,
yes, definitely.
really just committed to sharing what we have and having a good time with it, and just really I'm for you, and that's it. We're just committed to come together and share, and then and this is what I've noticed, and I hope if it's helpful, that's great, and I'm really being helped by what you've noticed, and I totally thank you.
Thank you too.
I thank you. Yeah, I thank you. See, I that's my first time with you, actually, Richard. I think we have not really met before. Because I usually do not have time on these Sunday evenings to attend these guide calls, And for me, it was a great pleasure talking to you, listening to you, laughing with you, and trying to do my best to understand English. And yes, that really is it, just meet and be,
Thank you, Gailey, and thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
It's been a joy.
All of the best. All of the best to you.
Thanks.
Thank
And of course, to you and Rena.
Right. Someday I'll do a show about what I'm picking up, but anyhow. From the lady here. So, anyhow, so thanks as always to all those that listen and come back and be a part and come on and tell your friends and tell somebody to come and talk to me, and whatever way you want to participate, you can feel free to do it. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, Paul.
Bye. Bye-bye.